All right, number 18. Lynn Butler. I hope there's something there I said that was helpful to somebody. Lynn Butler, what is the mission of the church? I've recently been told that it is worship and not evangelism. Therefore, we cannot worship fully without a diverse local church. I'm a bit confused. Yeah, me too, Lynn. I think someone's confused who is talking to you. Okay, so what is the mission of the church? I feel like this question can be a little loaded, right? Because it implies that we have one thing that the whole church is to do, and that's the only thing we do. And we filter everything through that. And if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to make it one thing we do, that thing better be very broad, because the church has lots of functions in the Bible, whether it's being the light of the world, or whether it's being disciples of Christ who are simply following him, or whether it's teaching and edifying one another, or whether it's worshiping, whether it's praying, whether it's just living out the love of Christ in our relationships with one another. These are all different things. So that one mission of the church better be a very broad thing. So you could say Jesus is like, okay, saying, go therefore into all the world and make disciples. So maybe our mission is making disciples. But wait, if I'm just making myself a disciple, am I fulfilling that mission, or do I have to make someone else a disciple too? Well, then you start to realize that we're just being a little bit. This is what happens to people who feel like they have to have a Vision Sunday every January for their church. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but it can cause problems. When I feel like I have to give the vision, fresh vision and mission and vision and missions. And then it can lead me to a place of creating these simplistic, motivational phrases for my church that may not translate into practical application as easily. So what is the mission of the church? If I was to actually give the mission of the church, glorify God. I mean, there's a broad statement that would absolutely work in all circumstances. Glorify God. Be faithful to Christ. There's a great example. But I don't think you can reduce it to evangelism or to worship, because neither of those encompasses all of what we're called to do. Then we get to the last part of your statement, which is the reason why this person told you the mission of the church is worship was because, quote, we cannot worship fully without a diverse local church. Now, I mean, I don't know what that means, but it implies to me that I'm supposed to go into the church and look at the color of the skin of everybody in the fellowship and evaluate whether or not they are properly worshiping God based upon their skin colors. I think this is a bit off base from our mission if we're doing that. Now, if you have racism, and there is church-wide racism, there's been churches full of people who would be like very unhappy to have somebody of the wrong color walk into the room. And that was racism, that was ungodly, that was unchristlike. But when we get to the point where we're actually counting heads and holding up the color spectrum onto our church service and going, do I approve or do I not approve? Like, I think you've lost the plot. So yeah, I don't understand that. What it seems to me then is the mission of the church in this person's eye is to become culturally diverse, except what they really mean probably is ethnically diverse. But is there anything wrong with like okay, so I live in Long Beach and there's a large Cambodian population. Is there anything wrong with a bunch of Cambodians all going to the same church together? They have a shared culture they've brought from when the Khmer Rouge was chasing them out of their country and they came here as refugees. Like, is that wrong? Am I supposed to walk up to the Cambodian church and I hold up my color wheel and I tell them, like, you're not worshiping God fully enough because there aren't enough white people here. Where are your Mexicans? Like, what am I? Like, this seems like we're missing the point. In Jerusalem, the early church was largely Jewish. That was okay. In Corinth, the church was largely Gentile. That was okay. But if a Jew had gone into that Gentile church and felt like they, I shouldn't say how they felt, if they were treated, and they may have felt this way because people feel different ways. Like you walk into a church and you're the only one of your skin color, you naturally feel awkward. That might just be you. But if they had been treated like they were not fully part of Christ because of their skin. That's not just racism. This is an offense against the gospel of Christ. But I think that we can't hold up color wheels to our church. It's not that simple.